Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Wednesday, another day, another PMI that is certain to throw the market into a loop. Oh, and we just had the US ADP employment change, 89,000 actual versus an expected of 150K. So the ADP came in like half of what was expected, and the market is flipping out. Look at this. Wrong screen. Look at this. Look at the treasuries. So wait, where does that put us? Well, it's only just kind of a little bit of a clawback of what we lost yesterday. Remember, yesterday we had the the JOLTS job openings number much higher than expected, and that's, again, I don't think that number is very reliable. So I don't know if we can read anything into that one. ADP is an interesting data point, but also does not predict very well what the non-farms on Friday were going to be. But now that we've had two numbers, look at me. We've had two jobs numbers this week already that were like insane beats, misses, whatever. This jobs number is going to be nuts because people are going to be so uncertain and there's going to be so many eyes on it, right? This jobs number on Friday means everything now. Okay, so Treasury's climbing things back. What about the equities? The equities climbing things back as well. So it seems like that the higher rates is the primary concern right now, and if rates don't have to go up as much, then everything's cool, right? Everything is awesome. Okay, natural gas, gold. Ugh. Well, gold bounced a little bit, but not really. Copper seems to be following the other metals really closely. So I continue to be concerned about China growth. It seems like we're just like completely decoupled now. Hey, Bitcoin's still kind of going sideways after retracing a little bit of that pop from 2 days ago, or the weekend, let's say. And the dollar coming back down, 106.25. All right, so that, I didn't even come back to the charts when I showed you all that. For historical purposes, ZN, ES, oil, gold, silver, copper, the dollar, the Bitcoin. Should leave it on Bitcoin. Okay, so we do not have 8:30 news, but we do have the S&P and ISM services PMIs. So we get another big piece of news again today. And the services PMIs, a note, have been above 50, have continued to be, have kind of been like the inflationary part of the economy that people are concerned about. So that ISM number really, really matters. And then, of course, tomorrow we get jobless claims, and then Friday, the non-farms. So we probably should have lots of opportunities here. Where it goes in the interim, though, is going to be really wild and anybody's guess. Okay, now Now, the other thing that is going on is that yesterday, in a historic, unprecedented move, the House of Representatives voted to vacate the House of the Speaker. So McCarthy is no longer Speaker, The Republicans had a conference late last night. I haven't heard anything about what was in that meeting, but my understanding is that McCarthy will not be rerunning, so it's like open. The most likely replacement would be Steve Scalise, who was second in command essentially, except for, because everybody respects Scalise, is my understanding. The conservatives really like him, okay? But Steve Scalise has blood cancer. So I've seen reports that he is running and that he's been calling people. So the best person to follow on this sort of stuff is Jake Sherman on Twitter. So I have a whole column just for Jake right now. So what has he been saying this morning? I'm already hearing rumblings from some longtime McCarthy allies that they will work to try to prevent Scalise from becoming speaker. The path to 218 is rocky for all candidates. Side note, but this seems to be not penetrating in some quarters. Additional Ukraine funding is going to be extremely difficult. Looking at the Republican candidates for speaker, I have a tough time seeing any of them bringing Ukraine funding to the floor, even with strings attached. Ooh. Yep. Jake Sherman, remember this, with Jim Jordan and other conservatives who may eye the speakership could attract support, but Scalise has institutional advantages of incumbency. Running a speaker race in a week takes an operation, and Scalise has that, and a sophisticated one at that. Yes, because you have, you basically have 200 people that you have to convince to vote for you, and that takes a little bit of legwork. I'm running out of Kleenexes. Trump for speaker. Yes, so somebody has already nominated Trump for speaker. If he wins, I'll eat my hat. It's ridiculous that this is even considered, that people think it's a good idea. It's just so bizarre. Yeah, I mean, the office of speaker is actually like a lot of work and kind of requires somebody that knows a lot about legislating. There's like zero chance that Trump will win it. Really, the speaker's race is an interesting thing to look at, because there's a fundamental problem in democracy, I think. It's not like obviously there's lots of problems, but the one that seems the most intractable to solve to me, the one that's like, well, we need to go this way, but then it makes this other problem worse, is that people need to actually understand what's going on, right? Like, all of the easy problems have been solved. The things that are like, yeah, everybody can see that this is obviously what needs to happen, and let's just do it, sort of a thing. Or things that, we just have to battle for several years, and then everybody kind of comes to, like, we've already done all that stuff, right? All of the problems that are left are difficult problems that are difficult to solve and require people that understand the system, and that have actually done deep research on these sorts of things, right? Well, The problem with that is if you put those only those people in power, then what you're doing is you're just putting the bureaucrats in charge, essentially, right? Because it's only high class bureaucrats that have the time to spend becoming that educated on those sorts of things, right? Or academics, which are still kind of like a different class of people, right? So the problem is, how do you get people that both understand the issue and are properly incentivized by the average person? You know, that it has the perspective of the average person and the incentives and so forth of the average person. Because what ends up happening is you get these bureaucrats, they say that they know what they're doing, and then they come in and they do what is good for bureaucrats and bad for everybody else, right? How do you solve that? Because you do have to have people that are, well, is it get the public more educated? But I don't think that you're ever going to get them educated enough on those, because it's complicated things and things that not everybody can understand, and frankly, things that not everybody should understand. So what do you do? But it's this same issue. You see this issue very much with the speakership. Like McCarthy was, I'm not going to call him the swamp, but he was like establishment Republican. You know? Yeah, they got to grease the wheels and make deals to get. He knows how it works. He's doing what he knows to be the most effective. Is just you know, what are we going to do something about the deficit? Because that system is basically how we got the deficit, essentially, right? Oh my gosh, I saw this guy on TikTok. I didn't finish watching his whole TikTok because he was just like, oh, the deficit, blah, blah, blah. It's so, you know, well, this is just our investment in America. No, like the deficit is a drag on growth, right? You are borrowing against future growth. And if you are borrowing too much, then it has negative impacts, especially on lower classes of people. It is not a good thing we're running a high deficit. They need to get that under control. And it's very interesting to me that this is all happening at a time when, like, I'm hearing people talk about bond vigilantes again. You know what? It's so weird to me to see the news media go from, like, nobody ever talks about bonds to all of a sudden this week, everybody's talking about the bonds. Are the bond vigilantes back? Find out today on CNBC. Do you guys think that's what's going on? Because I find some of these moves a little bit perplexing. Like, of course, yesterday's move makes complete sense because it was based off of a really crazy data point, and they did exactly what you would anticipate off of that data point, right? And some of the other moves that we've had. But there's been some other moves before that were just kind of came out of nowhere. That were just like, why are they selling it so hard? It seems like a little crazy. I am not convinced that these are people opening short positions because they are, quote, vigilantes concerned about government debt. I'm not sure that that's what's pushing them. I'm kind of, there's a bunch of different things going on. There's like the term premium is increasing. We're getting a yield curve uninverting because the market is starting to accept that yields will be higher for longer. You know, there's concern that inflation isn't going to come all the way back. The economy still looks pretty strong. Like, there's a bunch of things going on, but I was kind of in I'm not 100% sure which way this is going to go. And then all of a sudden it's just like super aggressively short, you know? And everybody says it's the vigilantes. I'm not buying it. I think that there's like a really complex set of flows driving things here. And I'm still very much like, this could reverse at any moment. Just seeing that ADP number, right? Because it would be easy to say, okay, like all of the numbers are going to come in bad now. Rates are just going to soar. We're going to see 13% soon. Nah, it's possible we could see 13%, but it would take a while to get there, obviously, right? This can reverse on you really, really hard. We could just like fall into a recession in the next quarter, right? What I'm seeing right now, estimates for quarter 4 annualized GDP is 0.7 versus a 3.4% annualized GDP in the third quarter. So this next quarter is going to be tough. And I'm seeing a lot of information about how things are going on the ground. And like small businesses are hurting. Small businesses cannot get funding whatsoever. The money is just not there. And then you add all these other things on top of that, student loan debt, etc. We may be like running into a recession and just be like being willfully blind about it happening. And then all of a sudden one day it's going to be like, oh, actually we are going to be in a recession, and they just buy the treasuries but up, right? It's like a strong possibility. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Tate, but I do follow him because, you know, of all of the stuff that have been going on with him, and he is saying something pretty good here. I don't understand how any self-respecting man can expect anything less than the absolute best of everything. Super bothers me. Many young people don't believe in excellence, don't believe in always trying to do your best at everything. Interest rates, the new equities. Well, so I read there's an interesting article on Bloomberg. Zero Hedge reposted it. And this guy was pointing out how things like the term premium kind of changes. And for a long time, the way that the term premium has been set basically made treasuries a really good hedge against equities. It was in part because of the term premium. And so with the term premium kind of shifting around, you're turning it's not as much of a, you know, it's not as much of a hedge against stocks anymore. Essentially, is what he was arguing. I think that they'll buy the treasuries up if something happens, but it probably won't make you as much as it would have made in, like, say, buying treasuries in 2008, right? So the correlations are possibly changing. That whole thing is super interesting. And if you're a 60-40 hit portfolio and we have a recession, you might just get destroyed, you know? So are interest rates the new equities? The world of investing is definitely changing. I look at things like index funds, for instance. And I'm just deeply skeptical that anything like that can really go on without any consequences forever. Like, at some point, indexing is going to become a problem or not as effective or something like that, right? Eventually, like, costs to running a portfolio like that will increase to the point that it doesn't make any sense anymore. There are 44 days until the government shuts down. The House now has no speaker. It'll be a week at minimum for the House to elect a speaker. That speaker will have the next to no leeway. Yes. There's all this crazy stuff happened, and then if you were watching it, and then yeah, it's going to be like nothing for a week. They won't be voting until like maybe next Tuesday. I can't believe they pulled that off. I was quite surprised too. Well, but remember when I said, I was like, I don't think that Matt Gaetz will win, but he probably wouldn't do it if he didn't think that he was going to win. So what do I know? Remember when I said that? So he must have known that he had 10 of them. I mean, but on the other hand, when you think about it, is it really that hard to get 10 Republicans to be against the speaker? Apparently not. I actually think I saw a story about this, just a headline, and I didn't read the story, but it echoed exactly what I was thinking. I just didn't have the time to read it. But I kind of think that the Democrats made a mistake last night. I think that if the Democrats had turned and voted to keep the speaker in, that they would have so there'd be a bunch of advantages of it with it to them. Number one, their negotiating power with him would probably be better than with any other speaker that the Republicans are going to choose. They're going to choose a hardliner that's not going to compromise on these things, right? And then because they helped him out, they kind of have a cudgel over his head. So, they kind of own him at that point. But on top of all of that, then they can turn around and they can say, like, look, this is serious. We take our democracy very seriously. And that's why we voted to maintain order, because we didn't want the House to turn into absolute chaos, right? Now, when they say this, they're going to talk about this. This is a circus. The Republicans aren't unified. They don't have things under control, yada, yada, yada. That it's just nonsense. They're just saying what they say because they think it's the best thing for them politically, but they don't actually care. So here's something that you'll see. Here's something that you'll see out there where people are like, this is so bad for our democracy, guys, because it's just going to be absolute chaos in the House of Representatives, right? Here's my thoughts on that. Oh no, think of all of the post offices that won't get renamed this week. Like, really? They're not doing anything over there, guys. It's a divided government. They can't do squat. Like, they can't even get like a continuing resolution to keep the government funded. They're not doing anything important. You elected these guys in there for 4 years. Part of the reason why the Republicans are so pissed off is that the way this has gone has basically been like, they don't matter. None of what they're doing matters at all for 4 years or whatever. It's a waste. They're working hard. They're trying to write laws. They're talking to people. There was one of the ladies, it was a woman who had voted against McCarthy, one of the Republicans, that one of those 10. She was saying, I have this bill that has something to help women, and he won't bring it up. He's not bringing it up because it won't pass. Nothing will pass, man. Nothing that he can bring up will pass, or it'll get vetoed by Biden. There's just nothing's going to happen. So why not have this battle? That's probably a more consequential and important thing that could happen right now than any of the legislation that they could, symbolically vote on, Yeah. What's really happening right now in Congress is that these guys are all figuring out that they don't matter and it's just a game. Matt Gaetz is playing the game. That's what it is. Let them play. Let's see what happens. Could be interesting. Well, the treasuries just took another little bit of a squeeze higher. It's been pretty consistent trend for the last 10 minutes or so, hasn't it? And this does bring us now back to the points where we basically were before the news yesterday, which with everything that we know, I think makes perfect sense, right? Well, we had a JOLTS number, but now we have an ADP number that contradicts that, so they should cancel each other out, right? Maybe. Huh. Nicholas Taleb reposts somebody named Cody Sanchez. I don't know if that's how you say her name. Codie. Cody? Anyways, my dad always said he sold marble and granite. He never used the word entrepreneur, founder, or owner. There's a lesson there. Yeah. That's just owning your own business. Because all of these words, those are just used by people trying to sell you courses to become an entrepreneur, founder, or owner. Okay, they did back off a little bit there. There was a massive amount of iceberging at O2. 15,000 contracts have traded there now. I guess I should go down my list here, see if there's anything I missed. Jimmy Oreo, dysfunctional government is bad, almost as bad as functional government. Caveat, the two-party system is really bad when one side is dysfunctional and one is not. Yeah. Here's something I think one of the biggest differences between Republicans and Democrats. And if you're a Republican, I really hope you listen carefully to this and take it to heart. The conservative understands that they need the liberal, and the liberal doesn't understand that they need the conservative. That's the difference. You want both parties to be strong, competent people, and to have differences and to be forced to work those differences out in a way that is productive. What we've had lately is both sides are incompetent and they're not able to work anything out and just nothing happens. But it would be a really, really bad thing for the country if like the Liberal Party just like disintegrated, for instance. And liberals don't understand that. Liberals want the conservatives to go away. They would kill you if they could. Some of these guys, these extreme ones, they would just kill or send all of the conservatives to a re-education camp, right? I saw this video the other day with a streamer named Hassan. It was saying, oh, well, what do you do about the people that don't understand those things? And just like, well, education and stuff. Okay, so you're gonna send them to a re-education camp, right? But that's what the left does. Conservatives understand that it's important to have both sides. That those are two important functioning parts of society, and that society goes off the rails when one side becomes weak. What is the conversion factor of the 10-year futures converting price to yield? Okay, that's an interesting question. Let's take some time to talk about that. So, if we come to the CME website and you browse around to the interest rate section, there's a bunch of tools that they have on the CME that can tell you some interesting things. And the one that we may be most interested in is the Treasury Analytics. So the Treasury Analytics will tell you basically everything about what is going on with the yield curve and the contracts. Because remember, these are actual deliverable, you know, if you hold it to the expiration or whatever, you are expected to deliver treasuries, but you have to deliver specific ones. There's like different QSIPs involved. So if we come over here to this one, then we can see those sorts of things. So one thing that it would be interesting to look at is the T-bond, which is basically a 20-year treasury. Okay. And up here at the top, you will get these two different things. So one is cheapest to deliver and one is on the run. So on the run is like the most recently auctioned off treasury. So if we were in the Ultra 30, then these would be the ones that, you know, were put into the market at auction in the past month, right? Cheapest to deliver is basically there's like a, so the treasury trades at a hypothetical yield of 4%, okay? And then there's like the price for it. And basically based on what the price is, there is a different treasury that actually ends up being like the most effective to deliver. So that's the cheapest to deliver ends up being the one that is like the actual price. Okay. So when you come down here into down here, how do you convert from this theoretical price that the futures are trading off of, which is based on this 4% yield, and the actual like value of the cash treasury? And that is the conversion factor. So I think it's like you take the price of this times the conversion factor and you will get the cheapest to deliver futures price or something like that, right? I think is probably why All In Risk is asking about it, right? So you can get that from the Treasury Analytics tool. It will also tell you things like what the implied yield of that is, for instance. Now, something interesting that's happening right now is that the cheapest to deliver You see it highlighted in yellow here? The maturity of the cheapest to deliver right now is August 15th, 2043. Okay, so the treasury that would mature in 2043. But as the yields go up and the prices go down, that cheapest to deliver can switch. And it could switch down to the maturities that are being delivered in 2040 and 2041. Now, the reason that that is interesting is because if you look over here, so right here, what is cash DV01? Okay, that's basically how much is the what is the dollar value of a basis point? So for each basis point, what does the value of the thing change, essentially, right? And you notice that the DV01 for these ones in 2040 is a little bit less than these ones over here. These more recently offered ones, okay? Or the current cheapest to deliver. So something that could happen is if that DV01 changes, then basically the duration. So this is like the measure of how sensitive it is to changes in interest rates, right? The duration of the futures changes from what the duration of the actual bond that you're holding is. And so you may need to add or remove some of your futures position to keep the duration of the two the same. Basically, like you're hedged, and then the interest rate changes, you're not completely hedged anymore. And so you have to sell some of your treasuries in order to be completely hedged again, because it's less, right? Less dollar value basis point means you need less treasuries to hedge it, essentially. And that $10 difference, that's like a 10% difference, right? So imagine you're doing this huge basis, right? This huge basis trade out there that is resulting in a record short in the treasury futures right now, right? And the DV01 changes, and because of that, 10% of that basis trade needs to sell, right? So if we were to move down, if the treasuries move down and interest rates rose enough, and it's probably somewhere around 3.85, something like that. I'm just kind of guesstimating where it would trigger even more selling. So there's kind of this feedback loop that could potentially happen with the treasuries if things got too bad. Probably won't happen until Friday or after Friday if it happens. But anyways, this tool will give you all of the information that you need to be able to do any kind of calculation between the futures and the cash bonds and the micro treasury yield futures and stuff like that. That's where I would start. And if the information that you need isn't here, then what you're trying to do is probably not make sense. What you're trying to do is probably not a good idea. Okay, that was a good spill. I hope that you guys, new people, found that useful. I didn't know Anthony Crudelli is promoting a Discord server now. Well, better late than never. Oh, invite invalid. Oh, well. SP accepted Marxist. Dude, there are definitely some people out in social media, especially on TikTok. TikTok has a pretty dedicated group of straight up tankies. When I say tankies, these are like communists that are extremely sympathetic to the Chinese. And I always, you'd see them on Reddit, and we always thought like, they're probably actually Chinese people posing as Americans and posting to try and influence Americans. Like, that's what we always thought, right? And then you get people like Hassan come out and are just like spewing absolute Marxist tripe. All of a sudden it was like, oh, there actually are some people in the United States that believe this stuff. You know what's the one that drives me crazy? Is when people say, so there was a thread the other day on Reddit that is, why aren't you a billionaire, or why do you not want to be a billionaire? There's all these people saying, well, like, it would be immoral. Like, in order for me to become a billionaire, I would have had to have screwed over all of these other people. And basically, it comes down to that these people do not understand what it means to own a company and the good things that come about from the capitalist system because of that. So Elon Musk is a billionaire. That does not necessarily mean that he has billions of dollars in cash. And we've seen that, right? He sold 10% of his Tesla shares. What did it do? It crashed the price. I mean, it didn't crash it down to zero, but like the Tesla price took a huge hit because of him selling off his position, right? If he sold all of his shares, I don't know if Tesla could survive. So is it a good thing to put a bunch of people out of work? Is it a good thing to not have Teslas made anymore? Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sold on the EV thing, okay? I'm very, very concerned about the ethical considerations of supply chains based on slave labor for cobalt and so forth, but I digress. Companies, employ people, and they do a lot of good in the world. And if you destroy it, basically when you're saying like all of this money should be going to like poor and charity and things like that, basically what you're saying is, all of the money that is invested in business right now shouldn't be invested in business and should just be given away to people. To realize how ridiculous of a thing that is to say, right? Okay, let's just destroy the whole economy. Yeah, that'll be really good for people, right? You see, what is actually best for society? Build the society. And we are kind of the engine that provides the funding for that building. Because, people need to be compensated for stuff. You don't just build for nothing. I mean, you should build, but you should build things and try and sell them, frankly. That's what we're here to do, is to build the society, make things, and, in this case, make companies. And the better, more successful companies we make, the better the world will be. I'm telling you, the world is better off with the money in these companies where it employs people and creates wonderful products and services and so on and so forth. It's better there than it is in the hands of government. Why is all these people, they want to give all of the money to the government, take it out of the corporations and give it to the government? This is just absolutely a crazy thing. I mean, there's problems with corporations, but those are things that like we need to make some adjustments to our system and stuff. This whole idea that like, okay, so we just abolish them all and give it, let the government. No, this is absolutely crazy. But this is what a large section of youth believe now. It's tanky logic, and it's just like absolutely mind-bogglingly stupid. It drives me crazy, and I think about it almost every day when I'm on Reddit. Because that's such a common, that's like their whole perspective these days. I know a millionaire, he left Russia to survive, came here and bought hotel properties, and they always put money to work. Well, it's not, I'm given inflation and everything, apparently it's not that difficult to become a millionaire. So I'm not a millionaire yet, but I'm pretty much on track to be a millionaire before I die. It's not a big deal anymore. So I guess a 10 millionaire is the new millionaire. Oh, that's right. Turn off your phone at 2:30. You don't want to see. I would keep it on. So this isn't the first time that they've tested the emergency system, right? But I would turn it on because you want to know how your phone reacts and all of those sorts of things. What if you're doing something important on your phone and then the alert comes up and it like locks you out of your phone for a certain amount of time or something, right? It'll be fun. Maybe they'll have a fun, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories around it though. You know what that reminds me of? There is an eclipse soon. That's on the 14th. Yeah, well, because it's going to go to your phone. This is the second time that they've done it. And a bunch of conservatives think that Donald Trump is going to use it for some, you know, important purpose or something. It's really weird. I tell you what, the conspiracy theory section of the internet has definitely like evolved. You know, like it's not enough anymore to have like the common, you know, like most of the conspiracy theories that we had on the conservative side were like natural questions, right? Like when you got the Podesta emails, we found out that, you know, they had a party with the spirit cooking lady and all of this other stuff that we found out about Podesta. Like, it was only fair to ask the questions, right? I think they made a pretty good case that they did the spirit cooking thing and that I think it was Podesta basically he had to cut his hand and it got infected. Like, you know, people are going to start asking questions about that, right? The conspiracy theories that I hear nowadays are just like get more and more ridiculous. It's just like really wild and crazy stuff. You guys not, you know, I haven't gotten an Amber Alert in a while, but I do get Amber Alerts, yes. You know what actually happens? I don't know if this is good or bad for the Amber Alert system, but basically, here in Utah, there was a case where there was an Amber Alert, and the Amber Alert was basically a father taking his daughter, right? Like there was a custody dispute, and so the father took his daughter and ran off, right? And then they triggered the Amber Alert. And everybody's like, well, this is a domestic dispute. This is not, you know, a child got kidnapped out at random, right? This is not what the Amber Alert system was meant for. The Amber Alert system was for a child just randomly goes missing sort of a thing, right? So everybody got really pissed about it. And so now the state is like much more cautious about using the Amber Alert system. I like the year that happened, I think that we were getting like an Amber Alert once a month, and now it maybe happens once or twice a year. And when they do it, they give a lot more details in the message that they send to you so that people know that it was somebody that was actually kidnapped. If an old person goes missing, we get silver alerts pushed to our phones by the government, so I don't see why the conspiracy is necessary. Anyways, it's turning into now like those natural conspiracy theories. People aren't interested enough in them, so they have to come up with the most wild left field sort of nonsense now. And so the conspiracy theories that you see are just absolutely like, what? There is one conspiracy theory going around, though, that I think is kind of more of the, you know, people are going to ask questions variety. That is super interesting, and that is the theory that the CIA killed JFK. I saw this one. Who was it? I forget who it was, but it was some guy that was friends with Trump. And he said, Trump, you need to release all of the information about what happened with JFK. And he was like, dude, if I even told you like the stuff that I've seen, it's so effing scary, yada, yada, yada. But then he can't tell you what it is. And then supposedly he told the guy later, and the guy hasn't said anything. So he kept his mouth shut. And all of the people were saying, oh, yeah, it's all of the presidents know Donald Trump knows, all the presidents know, and it's because they're afraid of the CIA. They don't say anything. That it was that the CIA killed JFK, and the presidents are all worried about it. Are all worried to step over the line. And that he knew, because the people that were theorizing on this, apparently all of these comments and stuff happened around the time that George Bush's funeral happened. So you remember when they had the funeral and all of the presidents got some letter or something like that? You remember that? Well, their theory is that the letter was the CIA saying, we know that you know, and yada, yada, yada. I wouldn't say convincing, but it's an interesting conspiracy theory, isn't it? I've seen a number of documentaries on the JFK thing that I say make the incident, a lot of the weird questions around the incident make sense, but not completely. There's still kind of this thing that the way that it went down was an extremely unlikely and difficult feat to pull off. Wow. So we should be getting ready for the S&P 500 to come on here. We should take a quick look at the markets again. So the treasuries did have that kind of trend up, and then massive absorption up here at the top. I think it was at 02 that happened. And since then, they filled out a lot of volume. Now, when you look at the volume profile, it looks very disorganized. And I would say that makes sense. There's just been some pretty wild movement. I should also note that this retracement back up was not just the ADP. It was moving up before the ADP. And so that has resulted in somewhat of a disorganized move. So I think that whatever was the meta order that brought us up here above 107, that meta order looks done. And for the moment, we're kind of randomly moving around. And again, in about 30 minutes, we'll have PMIs, S&P PMIs, and then 15 minutes after that, the ISM PMIs, which will be a blockbuster event. I always, it's kind of funny because whenever I start to get into the conspiracy theory stuff, I kind of forget about what were some of the interesting ones that I had seen recently. TikTok has been kind of weird. Maybe it's just because of TikTok. If I'm getting most of that stuff from TikTok, it's changed. For some reason, when I open up this link that Anthony Crudelli keeps posting. Here, wait. Let me try it this way. Add a server. Have an invite already. Join the server. Invite link. Oh, it says that it's invalid. That's weird. Maybe he's just sharing a bad link. I don't know. Something like 3 prominent. Oh, yeah. Well, you're talking about basically there was like Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator, who is post canceled because he said racist things and stuff, but was not really quite so bad. But I digress. He's said some things that I do disagree with, but he still says interesting things. And one of the things that he said a year ago was or a couple of years ago was, if Joe Biden wins, you are more likely to die or something to that effect. Basically, he was saying that like Joe Biden's policies would be so detrimental for the issue of crime and order in our cities and stuff that you could end up being murdered because of these disastrous policies, right? And there was a bunch of people on Twitter that like, you know, attacked him and stuff like that. And there was this one activist in particular that was like, okay, it's been a year now and nothing's happened. I'm still alive. I guess you were wrong, Scott Adams. And then like 2 days later, this guy got murdered in his house or something by, you know, and there was 2 or 3 other ones that were like that they died because of crime in their city. And it was just like petty crime in their city that it happened to. And so it's like just like 4 prominent liberal activists all at once kind of like being killed because of this sort of a thing is like really kind of eerie, right? That's what I think Uzi is talking about. You planning on ditching ZN due to the never-ending wait? Well, so let's talk about that. Because I totally understand it. ZN can be really slow. So first thing is that, you know, there's always lots going on in ZN. You got to realize that every time, you know, that the bid goes from like 2,000 to 500, that's like the equivalent of a tick in other instruments, right? So there's always something happening that you can watch and keep an eye on. And you can make money from it just ticking once, from just one tick. And, you know, it ticks, you know, every minute. Okay. The average, it's changing price every minute. Okay. So there's a possibility for you to make a profit every minute in the treasuries right now. Okay. But the treasuries is slower than other instruments. It's much more intentional. Like there's not as much randomness in ZN. When ZN moves, there's usually a good reason. Like you can usually do some detective work and find out what might have been behind that flow. Okay. ES, it just does random stuff. Okay. The ZN is not nearly as random. That's why I think it's really fun. You know, a retail trader says, oh, here's this price action setup, yada, 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 whatever. Okay. If you could backtest it on 10 years in ES and get it to be profitable, which is very unlikely. Well, not profitable, but like have profitable with a good Sharpe ratio and all of that, extremely unlikely. Go and put it on the treasuries, and it will probably like fail miserably because the treasury is so intensely efficient, and it doesn't just provide this random noise that you can kind of make money from. Like you kind of have to know what's going on and what's going to happen, right? That's why it's such a good instrument to practice with. It teaches you patience and teaches you the stuff that you really actually need to know to predict flows. Like you have to actually understand the treasury market and where the flows can come from, right? But if your knowledge is in a different area, then it absolutely makes sense to learn over here in the treasuries for a few months and then go and trade the other thing. But just be very careful about the ES, right? Because the ES and oil in particular kind of will lure you in. Okay. So they do it in different ways, but the way that ES will lure you in is you'll just have this incredible winning string, or you'll catch this one trade that just runs and runs and runs and makes your whole year, right? And so you think that you're super great. You think you've got something that works and that this is a great instrument to trade. And then it turns around and it just destroys you, right? ZN doesn't do that. ZN, it will just take your money right away. It's so efficient. If you're not informed, you're probably going to lose money in ZN. But ES, it'll play games. It'll plump you up a little bit and then it will destroy you. Oil is even worse. I remember when I first started, one day where I just took a bunch of little scalps and it seemed like a one every time. And I made like $10,000 or something on Sim. And then the next day, I lost like $20,000 on Sim. You know, like I thought I had it figured out and then... Oil is like that crazy ex-girlfriend that slashes your tires, man. She's vengeful. You make too much money on oil, it comes back for you. Oh, man. You do not want to be on oil's bad side. But there is definitely an advantage to patience, and you're going to eventually get to a market where the volatility in ES is so insane and ZN is the only thing that will be tradable. And then those are great times to trade. Why do people trade NQ? Simple, because it has the most leverage. So if you look at, okay, what is the average range of the day? How much money could I potentially make on average trading this instrument? Okay. And you look over at NQ, and you know, based on I have this much money and what are the margins and things like that, right? Okay. When you do that analysis, you will basically always come out to, I will make the most money if I trade NQ. And so the retail traders tend to be attracted to NQ for that reason. But the problem is that what happens is, yes, it has the greatest profit-making potential, but it also has the greatest loss-making potential, because really what it means is that the actual volatility of the instrument relative to how much a margin you can use is the highest. So NQ destroys accounts, man, because of that. And that's kind of the big problem. Okay, the big problem that holds retail futures traders from finding strategies that will really work for them in the long run is putting on too much risk. They come in with the approach of, I want to make this a living, and the metrics and stuff that they need to use in order to make a living from it with the money that they have ends up making them over leveraged. And so they think, oh yeah, I can come in and make 1% per day or something like that, and now, you know, it'll replace my 6-figure job or whatever. But it doesn't work out that way, because you're taking on so much risk that eventually when things go awry, you just blow the account. And this happens to so many traders, and then they give up. Whereas if they came back with the perspective of, it's really, really hard to make money, period, from futures trading, and I need to have a really well-defined bulletproof edge that I know for sure is an actual edge and is not just some pattern that I think or I've been told is profitable, right? And you just trade that as small as possible and slowly build up the account and size up as you build up the account. It totally different, and then you stand a chance at actually building something, because now you'll be able to trade long enough to actually figure it out, right? I heard you traded options a few times. What data provider did you use? I just opened my IB account and I'm struggling to find the technical documentation to evaluate the data reliability. Also found mixed options online. Okay, well, so when I trade options, I'm not playing the fast game. I tell you that much. Okay, I'm looking for something that, like, based on a piece of information that I know, the options are clearly mispriced. So this happened with oil. This was like the last option trade that I made was oil in 2021, before the Ukraine thing happened. In January, I think it was, I bought oil contracts because I looked at what the price targets were and everything, and saw that oil was set to rise. And well, I went and looked at the options, and it was like $3 or something for USO options. And I was like, well, our price target is like way higher than that. Like way higher than that. So I bought the options, and that ended up being like a $1,500 profit, you know? So like I made 5 times some of my money on that particular one, right? I don't do them a lot though, because I really need to feel like I know something that the market is mispricing wrong. And I still don't know why. Why was USO pricing that so poorly? I just can't. I looked at it again on oil recently, and it was not the same setup. So you like to analyze? Well, So the thing though is with options, right? You've got all these different strikes and stuff like that. Like sitting there and trying to analyze the times and sales about all of that is kind of a little, you know, the way that, you know, how does Mr. Griffin, what's his Citadel? How does Citadel trade options, right? Well, I'm sure that they factor some of that stuff in, but they ultimately, they have a way of like calculating what they think the price of the option should be versus what it is. And if there's a large enough difference, then they're willing to take the fills on it, right? It's an important thing to note because with the way that I trade the options, you know, I'm basically using a market order to hit into them. Because if I try and put a limit order at the price that I want, I'm almost certain to not get it, right? So that's why I don't do them very often, because it really needs to be like, I'm sure that if I spent all of my time trading options and looking for them, maybe I'd find them and I'd be a millionaire by now. But it really is reserved for like niche scenarios where the market is just really underpricing something for a bizarre reason. And the options are cheap. That's the other issues. I would probably do more options stuff if I had a bigger, like, you know, if I had $100,000 to trade, then maybe I would trade options more. Like, I think of it, I want to be able to like have a bad loss like 20 to 50 times in a row is kind of how I think about how big I want my account to be. Which means, by the way, when people say, you should risk like 1 to 2% of your portfolio on an individual trade, I say 1 to 2% a day, maybe. Like if you're pushing like 5-10% loss days, that you're maybe trading too big. If you're trading 20% loss days, then that's you're eventually you're going to blow the account probably. You know, so let's open up my little thing here. Because I made the video. We're on the same page on that matter. Yeah, there you go. So we made that video about smart money concepts, debunking smart money concepts. And so what's next? Well, those were like the planned videos. Oh, you know, I already did. Well, I don't have one that's a Ninja Trader Basics. So I could make a Ninja Trader Basics video. Maybe I should put that one up. And the macro video. I don't know about that one. I need to go back and look at what I had on there because a video on teaching like macro dynamics would be a difficult one to make. How much do you need to day trade? Dealing with tilts. That's financial news. There's a couple of different videos I can make still. That video didn't take off as much as you expected. I think it's okay. Let me see here. So if I come into... Homegrown Chris, yeah. Would be nice to make like an actual video about that. That would be a difficult one. It is one of those things that I could do is that I could go back into the market microstructure stuff that we've talked about and do the math part of it with the chalkboard, right? That is one thing that I could do. Okay, where's the video? Oh, it has leveled off. So, this little like gray area is like what my average video does. And here's what this video has done. Okay, well, so where are we at? So when I go into the reach, the impression click-through rate is above 5%, but really for this to become like a viral sensation, we need 10%. So maybe our title's not good enough. maybe our thumbnail isn't good enough. I don't know. But then when I also come over to like, well, okay, so engagement is okay. 60% are still there after the 30 seconds, so that means that's acceptable. Audience is almost all 35-year-old males. But what was I looking? Where am I looking? Oh, right here. Okay, reach. YouTube search terms. 2.2% of my total traffic, and 22% of my YouTube search traffic has come from the term smart money concepts. So YouTube did pick it up that the video was about smart money concepts, but it's not really sending a whole lot of people to it, is it? Well, now that's interesting. Things have changed a little bit. So most of the people are getting it from the browse, but number 2 is external, which is unusual for my videos. I did post it on Facebook, so I guess a lot of people in that Facebook group did click on the link, but this Nexus Fi one, what's that? I guess it won't. I guess I was hoping that it might show me more. Show me more, show me more, show me more. What is that? That sounds like a cryptocurrency. Oh. Wait, why would it come from there? You're right. I totally forgot that it was Futures.io. Why did they do that? I don't get it. And the look of the website is also kind of like, okay. Are they still using vBulletin? Can't tell. Did somebody link it over here? New posts, maybe? Yeah, that was Big Mike's trading before. Uh-oh. More stuff in the Vinny thread. Oh. Analytic posted something in that thread about it. Oh, did he post my video? That's funny. Oh, cool. That's cool. That's cool. What was I saying? So that's where that's coming from. So wow. You know, I don't really go for links on sites anymore because number one, it seems like people don't like that in general when you post your own stuff. But number two, it also often seems like that my content is on, especially on Reddit. Man, if I haven't submitted it to the day trading subreddit. If you guys want to do me a solid, go post it on the day trading subreddit. It would help me out. But I've never had any of my videos do well on the day trading subreddit for whatever reason. Anyways, so but here's the thing. It's very often that like a video will be out for like 3 to 5 days and then all of a sudden it will take off. So let's see if I can find an example of that one. If I come into this trading computer hardware one, for instance, well, you can't really see it, but like okay, in the first, let's see here, in the first 2 weeks, so the first 2 weeks, my best performing video ever performed worse than this video is, right? But then eventually it, like, you know, started to do okay, and then it started to get as suggested videos, started to come up as a suggested video, and then it took off, right? So that means, yeah, I was hoping that this would take off better than it has, but it's still doing pretty okay. It's still doing pretty okay. And the thing that will help that video is comments. So start arguing with each other in the comments of that video and it will take off. so far, it didn't really get anybody that was like really willing to like. I think that's one of the problems with my content is that, I think that I work so hard to put something out that I feel is authoritative and so forth that like people are afraid to comment on it. You know what I mean? It's like if they disagree, they're afraid to disagree because they're like, oh, this is more sophisticated than what I know. And then there's other people that are just turned off by that. It's just like, oh, you think you're better than me at trading then, huh? Well, no, because really what it kind of says is that we're all dirt. It's very difficult to predict markets, but, you know, some of the posts, they don't get as much comments. The reason why I think the video hardware one did so well was because of comments. So people started asking questions. Okay, what do you think about this computer? What do you think about this computer? You know? I had just seen something that caught my interest and I'm not... Oh, I just closed that window. I shouldn't have done that. You got the Logitech 305 in the end? And you like it? Yeah, I closed that window and I didn't read. Most of the signals it produces are repainting. Yeah. Okay, well, anyways. Okay, more stuff from Jake Sherman. Remember, the administration doesn't have transfer authority either. McCarthy had said he was going to do this, but now that the House doesn't have a speaker, it will have to wait, and we will see when the next speaker is selected. Maybe by next week, but that might be unlikely, and whether that speaker wants to pass it. I feel like that the speaker has a little bit too much power in Congress, but I'm not a congressperson, so I'm not gonna... It's probably outside of my lane to say that. Oh, I know what I was thinking about. It was just the Treasury came back here really wildly. They're trading a pretty decent range here, aren't they? I guess it's not, you know. So 24 is like the bottom of this. Gotcha. Oh, and we got the news coming up in 5 minutes, so it's probably time for us to, like, zero in, right? Got all of that by starting by talking about what our next video was going to be. I honestly, though, I may neglect to make a video for a long time. I'm kind of thinking like, okay, let's finish this stupid table It's not stupid. I love that table. It's not coming out exactly the way that I planned it and everything, but I still love it. I've put so much work into it, and I want a new table. And then after that, well, I'm going to continue doing that sort of stuff, but then I should be spending some more time doing the Series 3. I can do the note cards. I should probably shoot to do that in January. And some music. I have some songs I need to finish. And then by that point, I should have all of the computing resources and everything, and I should be spending my time building the algorithms and so forth to make a hedge fund. Right? So I feel like that my best videos are the videos that I wanted to make the most are out there, and of course I'll have to make some, but I'm probably, it used to be like, if I don't make a video every other week, I start to get anxious about it, Now we're going to take it a little bit easy for maybe the next year on the videos. And hopefully that last one really does take off. I mean, that's one that has the potential. If enough comments go, if somebody starts an argument in the comments or something like that, that has the potential to become a viral sensation that rockets us, into the 20-30K level. And then we would be able to do some of the bigger things that I think would really help our trading and so forth. But okay, so US S&P Services PMI final, previous reading 50 spot 2, expected reading 50 spot 2, and same for the composites. So they're not expecting much of a change. We've got about 2 minutes before that comes out. There will be a brief little bit of volatility, but just remember that the services ISM number at the top of the hour is the one that the market cares about and is likely to be a huge mover. Okay, so they are pulling for this one. The liquidity in the micros is pretty... Whew, okay. Thinking about it, when we came back to like 4... Did we get to 472? Oh, no, we didn't. Why did I think that we were at 472? Maybe we came close. That was kind of the area that I was trying to buy and kind of missed yesterday, so. Okay, here we go. Okay, lower than forecast. So we were expecting... Oh, but it's only slightly. So services was supposed to be 50 spot 2 and we got 50 spot 1. Gotcha. So not a big change, actually. So I don't know if they're going to do much with that. The liquidity's not coming back, though. That's curious. For whatever reason, the tiredness has come over me again at the moment. It's like, I kind of feel a little bit like I've been working out hard, Maybe it's because I need to sit up straight. Who knows? This chair is kind of going. I ordered a new chair, but I don't know when it's going to get here. I don't think it'll be here until maybe the end of the month, fortunately. But I'm super excited to get it. Oh, I should make a video about the chair. That was my best TikTok. Jeez. So I just saw this. I'm browsing Reddit a little bit before the news at the top of the hour, and so this is on Reddit. Video shows moment beloved activist poet is randomly stabbed. It really is like they were just sitting on a bench in the sidewalk, and you know, this seems like something that I remember doing myself in New York at night, and then all of a sudden they run into this crazy guy, and he just they get in an altercation, and the guy gets stabbed. Oh my gosh. And the girl, oh, they don't actually show the moment that he dies, but like the girl is just like, okay, I'm gonna let him handle this. And then when he's stabbed, then she's like, I don't think she completely gets what's the situation. I don't think it dawned on her what actually happened. Wow. That is a wild video. I'm not going to show that to you. You can go find it though. Jeez. Yeah. The first comment, that's incredibly terrifying, and yet this same guy would mock me for saying that I'm scared about stuff like this. I've never been in a situation this sounds terrifying. I've definitely, like, the thing that's kind of scary about it to me is that I can definitely think of times, both in New York and even in my own city, where I was walking around sketchy areas and there was crazy people, you know, but I was never concerned about it. Like, I mind my own business. I would never think that a crazy person would just come and stab me, you know? But I probably wouldn't, you know, I'm not a big guy. I probably wouldn't fare very well in a knife fight. Especially if I didn't have a knife, right? Senseless murder. I'd seen that stuff about that before, and I hadn't watched the video, and now I'm kind of like, oh wow, now I understand why everybody's talking about that. That's what happens when you're an optimist. Well, the thing is like, at least here in Utah, the crazy homeless people don't have knives, okay? They just yell at you. And when I was in New York, yeah, it was kind of the same thing. Maybe. Like, well, I think you're right. Optimism is the antithesis of survival instincts. It is. I think that's kind of like the whole point, though, right? It's like, as a human, you are programmed to be more concerned about loss, because that is what leads to survival. So evolution prioritizes that a ton. If you didn't eat, then you died. You know, if you made a stupid decision and crossed somebody, you die. So we're very, very programmed to be concerned about loss and about personal safety. It's just that if your goal is to build society and build generational wealth, those instincts work against you, because to do that, you have to take risks, and so you have to realize that instinct is not necessarily helpful in the modern world. Usually it's not helpful in the modern world. But we have definitely been reminded here in the past 2-3 years that those instincts do exist for a reason, right? Right? But it's really, what's so sad about it to me? Like, especially in New York. Because when I spent a month or two in New York living there, only for a month or two, of course, it felt like Disneyland to me. Like the feeling that you get when you're at Disneyland, that's what it felt like in New York. There's people everywhere, and there's just like friendly opportunities to go and spend your money on all sorts of great, all the time. Lovely place, right? They really had turned, and this was like what, 2010? Okay, they had really turned New York into a nice place, and it turned down so quickly. It was like we figured it out, guys. Like we'd solved one of these major problems, and then all it takes is a few stupid people with a few stupid policies and like 2 years to just turn the whole place into a madhouse again. It's so bitterly disappointing, and I can only imagine how disappointing that is for the people that actually live there. Yeah, all it takes is progressive activists getting power. It's just how anybody thought that any of these policies were going to be a good thing. Well, I guess I can game it out. They say, well, we've solved the crime problems, and it's not really, crime isn't really a big issue, and really it's people with mental health issues and stuff like that. No. Let me tell you something. When you're raising a kid, okay, and they're a toddler, okay? When your kid's a toddler, you don't negotiate with toddlers, okay? Can I do that again? Let me do that again, okay? If you have kids, you need to realize that toddlers are like terrorists. You don't negotiate with toddlers, right? You say, this is what we got to do, and you're going to do it. And if the kid doesn't immediately do it right away, then you come over and you start to facilitate them doing that thing. If you tell them to put their shoes on and they're not getting the shoes, and you go and you get the shoes, you put them down, you start putting them on, etc., right? You are, or I am, a trusted parental authority. I have responsibility for you and your safety, and you need to do what I tell you now. You're 2 years old. You don't negotiate with them, right? Right? That's, when they're a teenager, and then you can kind of discuss things and stuff, and maybe then you have those discussions that you wish that you had with your parents when you were a kid, okay? But not when they're toddlers, right? There's a process for rules, and it goes like this. Start very, very strict. Once people are working well with being very, very strict, then they don't need the rules, and then you can relax the rules. This is a general principle about the world. Okay. So when people come into like public policy with this idea of like, well, we need to relax things, on a large scale, that will always lead to more crime. It just straight up does. And so when it comes to dealing with the public, my policy is always go first to being strict. Go first to being strict, and only relax rules when there is very good evidence that we can relax it and it will be a beneficial thing to people. Right. This is why, for instance, my position is I don't want marijuana to be legalized. Now, maybe it ends up being the best thing, because there is a point at which it becomes a common enough thing that you're doing more harm by trying to fight against it than you are from preventing people from using it. But the less people that use marijuana, the better off society is, right? So I would not like it to be legalized in my state, And yes, these liberal activists, they took this naive take that you're too strict. We need to relax things, etc. And then what happened? Crime went back up. Oh, you mean the reason that crime was down and that things were so safe in New York was because of aggressive law enforcement? Yeah. Did I say? Oh, no, this channel is totally political. I don't think I've ever said that this channel was not political. So there's kind of like two stages of this, right? One is that there are definitely situations where the politics absolutely matter to the markets, right? Like this situation that's going on in the House of Representatives is absolutely something that we have to keep track of. And I will take positions, although you'll notice that I don't usually try and take the position like on, like I haven't come out and made an outright claim about should McCarthy have been removed from office or not. Because to me, it doesn't really matter. Like it happened. Okay. It already happened. I don't think that this is like the key issue or whatever the deal is, right? If I have something that is like, maybe I think I know what the video that you're talking about, and maybe you misunderstood it. Anyways, if I have something where there's a lot of evidence to support a particular policy, then maybe I'll talk about it, right? No. So the thing that I was saying in that one video is that the market does not respect political parties, right? So you have to think about the context of that video a little bit. So when that video was put out, Donald Trump had been in office for a year. And there were many liberals that believed that the market would immediately go into a tumble as soon as Donald Trump was put in office. And instead, he put the tax reform plan in, which the market really liked. And we had one of the, if not the strongest bull market I've literally ever seen. It was that first bull market after Donald Trump got elected was just absolutely amazing, right? And there was so many people that did not participate on that rally because they were Democrats and they just couldn't get over the fact that the market was doing well under Donald Trump. And I saw it the exact other way when it was with the Barack Obama. We can't say that with Biden because the economy has just been terrible under Biden. Okay, but when it was Obama, there was a lot of Republicans that were like, didn't want to invest, didn't want to take advantage of the things that were going on at the time because of their political cynicism, right? And so when you're making your decisions based on your personal politics, that usually ends up in a disaster from a trading perspective because we don't end up being very objective about those sorts of things, right? But we can't disconnect ourselves from the politics. So we can't say that this channel isn't political because number one, the politics do matter to the trading, right? And then the second level of it is that there are things worth talking about. And, I think on a larger level, what we're really doing here is we're working towards being better contributors to society. We're trying to understand our role as traders in the larger society. And that means that we do have to talk about politics and what's going on. Okay, so here comes the news. Okay, 53.6. So it's mostly in line. So the estimate was 53.5 and we got 53.6. So slightly above. I actually think that's good because I was concerned that it would be higher than that. I'm not quite sure what to do with that. You can see there is a lot of volatility in the market, though. They moved quite a bit up and down. I think if I was forced to make a trade on here, and I don't think that I really have enough of an edge in this situation to make a call, but I'm tepidly short treasuries because I think that the bigger thing is you wait for the news. Okay, the news is passed. Now the flows come through. that were just waiting for the news and have nothing to do with the news. And those are likely to be short just because of how much selling we've had recently anyways. But let's see if they actually do it. I don't know if that actually will happen. They may do random stuff here. We may make a move that doesn't actually have the volume, isn't actually like a large meta order, that like what we want, right? This is a hard market, reduce size. Yeah, it is. Well, I've really struggled in this market. I really have. The last 2 months or so, I've really struggled with it. So let's try and keep a closer eye on it. Might have the tendency to get really into a discussion on something and then want to look at the camera most of the time instead of at the DOM. So going back to what we were talking about, when I was talking about normally you start things strict and then you relax things as you go along. I mean, this is also one approach that I would take to your trading, right? You start out with very, very strict rules, and then when you're doing really well with those strict rules, then you have the ability to come in and say, oh, okay, well, we don't actually have to worry about it in this situation. And then you can start breaking the rules, right? But first, you have to demonstrate mastery with the rules. I think people want to take this other kind of approach, which is like start things really relaxed and then kind of like slowly go into it and stuff. It never works because you'll always prefer things to be relaxed. So it's just like you're just lengthening out the pain. You're just lengthening out the amount of time wherein you're gonna have to really exercise self-control and like mastery over yourself, right? If you just go cold turkey, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. Doing it starting today always works better. Like if you're going to quit smoking, go cold turkey. Cold turkey works the best. Some algo trader on futures.io was going in 40 contracts. So there's, you're going to remind me, there was this post on Wall Street Bets yesterday. And it looked like this guy was actually trading like spies and things like that. He wasn't trading futures. And he was taking trades that were about between $1,000 to $3,000 a trade. So it's similar leverage or whatever to or risk, let's say, to what some people are trying to do on futures, right? But he posted like a listing of all the trades. He didn't post like broker statements, so it could have been sim, but he had a listing of all of the trades and like the context that he had going into it. He was trading it with indicators. I think it was a legit post, and he had made like 100K off of it in like 3 days. I was like, holy crap. Holy crap. It was quite amazing trading. And when you go down and you look at the trades, it's not like there's like, he's taking huge risk on it and then, there's just a few. No, it was like his winners are all bigger than his losers. Like his losers are all relatively small. And he just has lots of winners. It's like, whoa. Now, he was trading the right direction in a very trending market, but still, it was one of the most impressive posts of that kind that I had ever seen, because he actually posted the results and stuff. So I didn't know if that I would like try and use a strategy per se, but it was a very impressive post nonetheless. Okay, so they have turned to the downside, as I kind of suspected. We're getting a little bit of a pullback here. So I think that I probably can try. There's enough flow now that if I can find a spot in here, I might be able to try going short again. Now, one of the things we got to remember is that these reports have stuff inside them. Maybe we should go read the report. You want to go read the report? The news continues. There has been a slight pullback in the rate of growth for the services sector, which is attributed to slower rates of growth in the new orders and employment indexes. The majority of respondents remain positive about business conditions. Moreover, some respondents indicated concerns about potential headwinds. Prices are coming down across the board for most commodities. However, there are still a few areas where supply is not available on a consistent basis, or what is being delivered is not to specifications. Conditions remain favorable for mechanical contractors. New construction projects continue to launch. We are still seeing opportunities for cost reduction across many commodities. Inventory levels on finished goods remain strong. Okay, there was a little bit of a pullback. I'm seeing like aggressive movement in the Japanese yen again. Supply lead times are approaching normal. So I'm not getting anything. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Let's just wait for zero hedge. Yeah, I'm not seeing any like obvious, oh no, stagflation, etc., in there. Kind of sounds more like normalization. Defense stocks fall as paralyzed house with no speaker puts U.S.-Ukraine aid at risk. Well, that's great. Maybe I might be able to buy defense stocks at a reasonable price someday. Someday. Big offer at 24.5. Pulls. They gonna trade it? Not that time. Well, that failed spectacularly. Would have been a good short. I should have taken that one. I don't like to read those as like signals, but if there's a big offer and they don't get through it, that is probably bearish, yeah. But that tells us something, right? The market is being very responsive to the flow at the moment, isn't it? I think I got to be careful about this one, because I would be tempted to try and take it as she goes. But I think that there's going to be a little bit more back and forth here first. S&P 500 selling off here. Not looking too happy. Not detecting anything in the yield curve, by the way, but there is a decent amount of selling in the 30-year. Well, interesting. The 10-year has been lagging the other two a lot lately. Okay, so there's an iceberg at 34.50 they got through. So I think that they're going to try and attack this 24.5 again. It looks like pretty healthy back and forth at 23.5, so that is not a, oh, I want to go for new lows kind of a trade. Market looking kind of slippy here. Looks like the dollar and the yen are still major factors here at this moment. should note that yesterday's low was 18. Kind of ended around 20.5. So we're kind of in an area that they're probably fairly comfortable. That could be a big deal, what I just heard there. I'm going to wait for it to pop up on Twitter so that when I read it to you here, I'm reading it correctly. That it translates over to you correctly. They didn't bid 24.5 yet, but I might see them go bid there. Would be fairly significant. Yeah, okay. So now I'm definitely feeling comfortable letting it retrace a little bit. Okay. There's an Axios story. Scoop. Senior Biden advisors quietly visit Saudi Arabia to discuss mega deal. The senior Biden advisors quietly visited Saudi Arabia last week to continue talks on a potential mega deal that could include a peace agreement between the kingdom and Israel. Two sources with direct knowledge of the issue told Axios why it matters talks for the deal gained momentum last month following President Biden's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But it also became clear there are still many issues to work out, including a Palestinian component to any such agreement, and that the process will take time. The Biden administration is pushing to get a mega deal with Saudi Arabia and Israel before the 2024 presidential campaign resumes Biden's agenda. Behind the scenes, Brett Muck, the White House Middle East czar, and Amos Hochul, Biden's senior advisor for energy and infrastructure, visited Saudi Arabia for several hours last Thursday, sources said. The White House did not disclose their trip. McGurk and Hochstein met with MBS and other senior Saudi officials and discussed the different elements of the mega deal. One of the sources also discussed other regional and bilateral issues. The spokesperson added that McGurk is in the region regularly working on a host of matters aimed at reducing broader tensions in the Middle East. Spokesperson also said that Hochstein regularly travels to capitals around the world supporting the president's partnership for global infrastructure, including the recently inaugurated India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. As part of the mega deal talks, the White House is negotiating a potential security agreement between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, possible support for a Saudi civilian nuclear program, and U.S. approval for sophisticated weapons sales to the kingdom. There's a new, okay, so that's interesting. They went bid at 25.5 and got smacked down 2 ticks. Israeli officials have recently tried to downplay how much Saudi Arabia cares about the Palestinian component of the deal. They have pointed to MBS's interview on Fox last month, in which the Saudi crown prince did not mention a Palestinian state, but only said he wants to improve the lives of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank as a sign of this. I get the feeling that this MBS guy does take his position and power in the world seriously and wants to have a positive impact on the world, even though his view of the world and what is maybe good and bad is different from ours. And I really appreciate that about him. Okay. One of the sources with direct knowledge of the negotiation said MBS's interview signifies the opposite and stressed Ridia wants to see Israeli concessions to the Palestinians. Biden and Netanyahu agreed during their meeting that any mega deal that includes Israel and Saudi normalization should be based on the principle of preserving the prospect of an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal in the future. Okay, so I don't see anything in that story about oil, but that does seem like to be a significant thing for oil potentially. The Biden administration playing nicely with the Saudis would be a positive thing for the oil price coming down. So maybe that helps. And we have seen oil in the past few days on the downturn. So maybe things aren't so bad, guys. Maybe things aren't so bad. Maybe we should be buying this. So it kind of seems like the dollar's still on a tear, though. They're going to touch 106.50 now? I don't know. I waited through all of that. It came back quite a bit, and I'm only getting 477. A little concerned that this may actually turn into a reversal. Let's see. I'm a little bit less certain. Like after that first I was like, okay, well, I think that they're going to sell. We did have a move to the downside, but the way that the volume is played out through this, I'm not buying it. It was not a large meta order sell like I thought. It was not like okay, I really needed to sell a ton and I just need the news out of the way sort of a thing. That doesn't seem to be happening. And in fact, what I think is happening instead in the 10-year is that somebody is taking advantage of this strong sell to buy some, because we have seen some buying since that low about 10 minutes ago. So I think that is enough to destroy my trade that I was stocking. So I'm neutral again. I guess I will put the safety back on my account. What would I need to see to get me to buy here? Well, one thing is that we are at the market making buyer's average price. $23.5, basically. Oh, okay, so I should just go back. Jake Sherman Emmer is starting his calls for a majority leader with his close friends in the House, natural political allies, not a regional play, at least not yet. House GOP source passes along that Matt Gaetz requested a $50 million earmark for advanced helicopter training system hangar. Cool. This suggests that Gaetz won't be getting any earmarks for anything anytime soon. I want a I want the helicopter training. I did take one yesterday. It was a small trade and I puked it. Lost $10, I think. I'm kind of trying to be neutral at the moment, but I think I may start stocking the long. Let's see. So the long flow would be nothing crazy happened. The sellers had their chance, didn't really take it too far. People are going to have to cover, and we get a short covering rally. But let's see first. Yeah, it was the treasury. Good work. Oh, it was a loss, though. Ooh. Oh, okay. I missed this one. We are going to have Fed's Bowman in 5 minutes. There will be a text, but no Q&A. And then we got Goolsby at 8:30. So let me come back here. They're not listed here on Forex Factory, so I don't know what they're actually doing. It's still very tight. That's what matters. Yeah. The trade that I took yesterday wasn't necessarily a terrible trade either. Like I had things right. I just kind of got pulled into got sucked into something that pulled back, but was ultimately would have been a good trade. You know, if I had held on to that, it would have been a very profitable trade. So, but that was the amount of risk that I was willing to take in that situation, which is probably foolish for me to have taken that if I was only willing to take 10 ticks of risk when it was clearly going to move more than that. Okay, let me show you something funny. There's this post on r/conservative on Reddit right now that says, find someone who looks at you like Ilhan Omar looks at Matt Gaetz. And I paused it on a certain frame so you can see. Does Matt Gaetz have like a really good butt or something? Wait. I mean, she is definitely like looking at him and like trying to not look like she's looking at him. She definitely checked him out. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I hope to instill this discipline soon. Wish I could be more rational or emotionally sustained. You know, I think the thing is that like, the emotions are always going to be there. Like, that's the thing. I think people have this idea of like, do you be the robot? Well, I tell you what, I'm on ADHD medications. That kind of does that to you, right? It's a similar thing to like what the Germans did and when they were all on amphetamines and stuff like that. Like it just zeroes you in, and it can kind of make you a little merciless in some cases. I still feel like people's emotions, but it's just I care more about what I think is best in that situation. And when I come into my trading though, I realize that like the emotions don't go away though. They don't go away at all. It's just like my ability to control my actions and what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing, in spite of the emotions, is what it's about. Suppressed emotions boil up. I don't think it's the same thing. So they're coming back. I can see the Japanese yen getting crushed a little bit here. Okay, so here comes the comments from the Fed governor. I can't be a robot. I really think the robot approach doesn't work. You want to trade like a robot, program one. It sounds like she doesn't really comment on interest rates in the text, so. So they're back to the point where there was a large order. This was kind of the spot where I was looking at it, where I was like, well, I could go short here, but I don't really feel like I'm getting a good price. They did go a little bit lower, but I don't really feel like they got a good price. And again, I'm a little bit weary about some of the flows that I'm seeing in the 10 and the 30 year, kind of suggesting that actually there's a long out there. So that's interesting. Somebody in Discord posted this story. The Bank of Japan's money market data showed on Wednesday that Japan likely did not intervene in the currency market a day earlier after the it was the jobs numbers, right? It was the PMIs, as the current account balance was projected to be within market estimates. Okay, so if they're saying it was Tuesday, they definitely intervened on Wednesday. Okay, they're coming back down here. 30-year is turning into a sell. Maybe it is a sell. Well, it was 7.7. I'm already 10 points. That moved fast, actually. I'm just not in tune with this market very well, am I? But it's good that I'm kind of like worried about taking trades because of it. I don't view those breach of the regular session lows as very significant either, by the way, so I would often be like looking for as she goes trades and stuff here, but I'm not. Kind of expecting a little bit of a range here again, possibly. See what happens. I'm too pansy to try the hero trade. I think the hero trade like 4785 would be awesome. But the way that the 30 years moving off of that has me scared about trying to take the other side. Oh, that's weird. Los Angeles is using AI to predict who might become homeless and help before they do. Okay. I should focus. I need to be focused over here. 1,000 to take it off for 12.5. Back tick. Doesn't hold. I think the flow short there wasn't very much, but I think that what's moving us is again the dollar. So yeah, and the Japanese yen did come down there, so okay, so there's the oil numbers. So it's a draw. So crude oil was a draw and gasoline was a build. Pretty big build on the forecast too. 6 million barrels versus an expected negative 0.3 million barrels for gasoline inventory. But crude oil, it was a draw negative 2.224. Okay, Goolsby also not speaking on monetary policy or the economic outlook. On Treasury's bouncing a little bit here. and the dollar flipping around a little bit. Yeah. We're basically just dollar traders at this point, man. Not sure what to think. You took the hero trade for a scalp long? I mean, I'm definitely thinking about it, man. You know what? I'll do it. With oil dropping here. Like it's not looking too strong at the moment, but there are decent bids below us and so forth. And okay, well, that helps. Dollar does look like it's turning, but it's not moving too quick yet. FOMO? What crude turning over was the thing that gave me enough confidence to finally get into it. We'll see if it actually goes. It's not really going yet, so. The bidding looks okay, but I'm not actually seeing a whole lot of flow pushing in my direction or anything. Right, it's still mostly market making here. Which means they're gonna play with it and try and squeeze me out. Yeah, the dollar's moving around a lot now. It's a little frustrating to me. Like, we have gotten some big selling moves in the treasuries because of the economic news, but it feels like whenever I'm like actively thinking about taking a trade, that I'm getting messed up by the dollar yen, you know? Like that the dollar yen is the only thing that matters, and since I can't predict that very well, it's noise, you know? I find that very frustrating. Well, Elastic looked really good in ZB. Jim Jordan to run for House Speaker. I'm very interested to see who ends up being Speaker, because they got a real race going on here. Okay, so this is a good uptick at 24. Didn't hold, but just good positive development either way. U.S. factory orders jumped more than expected in August. But what we really want to see is services. Despite the plunge in hard data in September, manufacturing PMI rose to 6-month highs. However, more notably, the services PMI tumbled to 50.1, barely in expansion, its lowest level since January. ISM services for once agreed with PMI services, sliding to 53.6, with new orders plunging and unemployment tumbling and prices sticky. As the PMI survey noted, in line with another substantial uptick in cost burden, service providers hiked their selling prices in September. The pace of charge inflation accelerated to the fastest since July as firms sought to pass through greater costs to consumers. The final PMI data for September adds to indications that the U.S. economy has started to cool again after a resurgence of growth earlier in the summer. Inflationary pressures in the service sector, meanwhile, remain uncomfortably sticky. The biggest change in recent months has been the waning in demand for consumer services such as travel, tourism, and recreation, along with a slump in financial services activity. Providers of consumer-oriented services report that a revival of demand in the spring has gradually lost momentum amid the ratcheting up of interest rates and increased costs of living at a time of diminishing savings. In the financial services sector, financial conditions are tightening and uncertainty about the outlook is subduing confidence. Both sectors are now reporting falling activity levels, taking away a major source of support to the wider economy's expansion. Finally, the economy therefore looks to be moving into the fourth quarter on a weak footing, hinting at lower GDP growth as we head toward the end of the year. Those are pretty good few ticks that we've gotten there now. There's still, what's the recent high? 26.5? Supposed to be like a more than just, a lucky noise, but we're getting buying those. So far the flow seems to be supportive of the trade. How much more could there be? I don't know. Okay. And just to rub more salt into the wound, prices are rising. Average prices charged for goods and services, meanwhile, continue to rise at a rate well above the pre-pandemic average, with services sector charge inflation remaining especially stubborn in part due to recent oil price hikes. So slowing growth and prices rising. Yeah, it is stagflation. Although I wouldn't say, it was so close to in line with expectations and everything. Like, the market really does seem to be ignoring it. So when I look at the price action, 26.5 is kind of like the swing high. So sometimes you look around there and see interesting things happen. But when you look at the volume, the volume profile still looks incredibly disorganized today, doesn't it? And when you look at cumulative delta, at least in the treasuries, though, and this is what I'm kind of basing the trade on. When you look at the cumulative delta, pretty consistent up movement, right? So we appear to be getting some buying coming in here, and it is maybe still a steepener though, because the 5-year is leading. Okay, Jim Jordan, the man who said he didn't want the job, is running for House Speaker to replace Kevin McCarthy. Firebrand congressional investigator Jordan was reportedly having conversations with the House GOP allies and will reportedly throw his hat into the ring. Jordan, who once challenged McCarthy for the speakership before becoming his biggest defender among conservative hardliners, has grown in popularity with the conference in recent years, but some centrists and rank-and-file members may be cool to the idea of his ascension given his role in helping force out former Speaker John Boehner. We've had a lot of people reach out to us asking me to do it because I think we can. We'll see if that happens, but I think I can. Okay. You know who I want to be speaker? Chip Roy. I like that guy. If he was running, that's who I'd vote for, but I don't think he's going to run. Okay, there's 27. A few contracts. This is probably a stop out there, because that 13 traded awfully quick. Some decent prints up in here too. Kind of suggesting that there is some money involved here. Of course, I think this is mostly just this retracement in the dollar, so. Iceberg 26 half bid, huh? Iceberg 27, but they punched through it very quickly. Interesting. It was like he kind of tested it, and it was like, oh, there's plenty there. Okay, yeah, I'll buy all that. So there's definitely a meta order buy here. That is definitely a meta order buy. Question is, how much more do they have? Well, this has been going for about 10 minutes. I haven't seen, so I got to be careful here because what's happened to me with a lot of profits recently is that it will turn back around very quickly. And I don't get the clear sign of like distribution and stuff for me to get out that I want. The dollar took a bit of a plunge there though, so. I couldn't have gotten 20, but I was awfully close. Don't like that offer at 28. The bids behind me look fairly healthy, but again, we're kind of pulling out of the way. It seems like the dollar is the dominant factor here. I am getting those candles kind of turning in on themselves over here in the dollar, so that is possibly an area that we might want to take profits. Okay, so the bid not coming out of the way, but he definitely moved more passive. So. Concern I have now is it might be a one that you hold and it comes back up here towards these highs, but there might be a steep pullback first. So let's just see if they can hold it. There was that iceberg there, but now it's kind of chilling out, and it just seems to be rotating with the dollar again. With the Japanese yen having turned up quite the same way that the treasuries have. E-mini seems to be doing okay now too. They're at 42.70. Scully seems to have a bold name challenger. I really don't feel like Scully should run because he has blood cancer. I'm just not sure that that one makes sense, guys. No, staff? Nobody's ever called me that before. But good morning. Okay, so there's some people giving up on it. The dollar coming back up there. Moment of truth, guys. And even, man, we're all just dollar traders now, man. I hate it. I hate it. Okay, well, it fell back down there on basically no volume, so that was like my flow. So like, I do think that I am getting strong evidence of a meta order buyer in the treasuries, and that did help bring it up to those highs at 28. But the currency is a strong factor here as well, and I'm not seeing as much flow trying to follow that, but it did suck us back down. So we'll see if they pull it out here, if the dollar decides to go higher, or if the dollar just, chills out a little bit. But it looks like we're trading the dollar here. I did like the flows long in the treasury. Kind of when it touched the 20, I was kind of like, oh, that might be a place to get out, but I'm not getting out at 20. So I guess we have to ride it all the way, huh? We're at a key support level here again, so I think that with me having just a little bit of profit baked into it, I think that I should try and hold it. I'll be really impressed if it pivots and bounces here again. I'll be really impressed. This is right where inventory cost basis has buyer average position. Oh wow, it's almost time for us to go. Well, that went fast. That hour went by very quickly for me. I guess time flies when you have a winning trade. But it come all the way back. So I'll probably leave it open here for a little bit, but it looks like we're gonna have to scratch it. Okay, there's the dollar turned back down again. Although I admit the treasury not quite as responsive to that one. WTI tumbles to 1 month low as gasoline demand plunges. Oh, I forgot. Do I? I don't have anything this morning, do I? Oh, yeah, that's tomorrow. You gotta remind me tomorrow I gotta end early. Gotta end about 30 minutes early tomorrow. I don't know, man. It's a little eerie that it comes literally right to that inventory cost basis and starts to bounce. I guess I got to be wary about that, because if that kind of suggests that this is more market maker shenanigans. But it's the dollar moving, right? So let's see. The dollar, if we come back over here, see the dollar's coming back down. The treasuries haven't moved quite as far, but you know, if they can get below here, you know, you could get a lower low in the dollar, then that could really help us out, right? I don't think that the higher highs and higher lows and price action and everything is like predictive or anything. But when you're already in the trade, it sure helps out, right? Because that's what you want to see, is you want to see, you know, we want to see the treasuries make a higher high here now and the dollar make a lower low. That bid at 25 is good too, by the way. See, what we might start to see happen now, if we get a little bit higher, is you might start to see the people puking again, huh? ZB still has a way to make up if we're really gonna get the target we want. At 55 Chinese sailors are feared dead after nuclear submarine gets caught in a trap intended to snare British and US vessels in the Yellow Sea. Wow, okay. That sucks. Well, I guess you make $10 on it, guys. I'll have to wait a little bit to see what kind of a price I can get, but I think it was an okay trade. I think, you know, we did get those flows in our favor, so I think that I did a lot of things right on this trade, but it was just kind of only a mild win, so that's okay. I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh wait, what should we put on the title? Services PMIs in line. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow and Friday. Friday is going to be a big day. So, see you then. Stay excellent, team.